It is September. There is Halloween candy in CVS at the checkout line. There is seasonal brews coming through. And we have a new Saw movie. Nope, that got pushed back to next year. But that's okay, because we have the second in the Exorcist. Nope, that got delayed like 2 years. We have coming out the prequel to the Friday that that got canned and they're in redevelopment. No Friday the 13th from Brian Fuller. Justin, what do we have to look forward to?
You know, this year has been just packed full of horror movies, more than usual. I mean, the year's not over yet. There is a crap ton of movies coming out this year. I mean, we have, following the year of 2024, we have prequels, sequels. We have, I guess, original ideas based on original ideas. We have, Y2k coming out. We have Timecut. We have Terrifier 3. That's my most anticipated movie of the year. And again, we have, what else do we have? Smile 2, another sequel. Mm-hmm. Alex, you fill in the blanks for the other one. What else we got? One big one. I want you to say it, though.
Nosferatu?
Yes.
Yes.
A studio and a director and writer with some cojones to tackle this one that I can almost guarantee is going to be, it's going to look beautiful, but it's going to be a dumpster fire.
The problem with Nosferatu, which we'll get to, we'll talk a little bit more in depth. I already saw this 25 years ago with Willem Dafoe, and Willem Dafoe's in it.
Shadow of the Vampire, yep.
Yeah. Oh, such a good movie. But
fantastic.
Justin, before we really dive into this, I have to ask you something. Who are you and why are you on my podcast?
I thought this was Alcoholics Anonymous, so I don't know. I'm just going with the flow at this point.
Oh, okay.
No, again, if you haven't, I am the host of the Movie Wire and almost a sidekick to the sidekick to the sidekick of Talking Smack. So I pop in once in a while.
Aren't you also the guy that critiques Roger Ebert on another podcast?
That is correct. Me and Antonio from the Cult-Worthy Cinema podcast, who just released his new season, are now partners on a new show that is fantastic because not only do I get to get angry over horrible movies, but I can get angry over some very horrible reviews. But they're not all horrible. There are some great points that both of these legendary critics do, and that is Back to the Balcony. So it's a fantastic show that's available on YouTube right now.
And I can see, because, we can't see each other through this interwebs thing. You have some new stuff in your background. You actually have a reel that says the Movie Wire podcast on it. I like that.
Yep,
yeah.
That's my DIY kit that I kind of pieced together. So it's a brand new setting. So this is my home away from home right here. So as you can see, I got the Rocketeer in the background. Mm-hmm. I got Patrick Stewart that's judging me in the background on the second shelf. So it's some fun stuff.
Yeah, highly encourage everyone to listen to the Movie Wire podcast. Thursday mornings, I hit play and immediately start sending angry messages about, like, how dare you? or a lot of the times just sympathy messages of, like, oh, it sounds like you had a rough week, man.
There's been a lot of those this year, but you know what? I will say that 2024 is better than 2023 to an extent, but at the same time, if I see another reboot, sequel, or reimaging, I'm absolutely going to scream by the end of this year.
But yeah, I think we should dive into two movies you touched on, just quickly to look at them, because they're not really on my radar. And in one case of Timecut, which is coming to Netflix on October 30th, they haven't even released a trailer, just a little quick brief promo message about a high school student who accidentally finds a time machine, travels back to 2003, the year her sister was murdered, to catch the killer. It sounds kind of quirky, kind of fun. A few years back, Justin, they released the Fear Street trilogy, which I'm actually really sad they did not. They haven't continued on with. It was released in July of 2021. Just Subsequent Fridays by Lee Janik, wrote and directed them. Really fun movies. I like how they intertwine the lore of R.L. Stein with kind of an original story. I'm hoping Timecut seems to be a similar thing. Maybe Netflix can find its footing with a young adult horror genre, maybe. But we have nothing to go off of other than that little tagline.
Yeah, we kind of do have something to go off of this because the synopsis it delivers the same damn plot of what we got last year in It's a Wonderful Knife, just not based on Christmas. It's another time travel serial killer movie there. And a shocker, it's done by the same damn writer, Michael Kennedy.
I did not know that.
Michael Kennedy wrote, and he's only got 3 projects under his belt, and that's Freaky, which I absolutely love Freaky. I thought it was a lot of fun. But then came It's a Wonderful Knife, which was a great premise and a good change from the holiday season. But he's banking on that premise because the movie sucked, and he's trying it again in this. So fingers crossed that this one is a little bit more fun, and I think it does seem it could be a little bit more fun, other than serial killers around Christmas time, but we'll see.
Freaky, that would be Christopher Landon directing, Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton, the body switching one.
Yes.
That was really fun.
It was a fun movie. It was a unique one, too. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a great role for Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. And the other one we mentioned was Y2k, coming out on December 6th. This is an A24 film by Kyle Mooney, which depicts a reinterpretation of the Y2k phenomena with, of course, murder and shenanigans galore. And Fred Durst playing himself, which I'm kind of excited for because I keep forgetting how much I love The Wedding Singer, and Billy Idol playing himself was just hella fun.
This one I think does look like a lot of fun, even though it's almost a reimagining of Maximum Overdrive, only placed in 1999 on New Year's Eve. So, but to me, this one has that one tone that does scream the fun factor. And it actually does have kind of an attractive cast. The one thing that's holding me back from this movie is going to be Kyle Mooney, who wrote Unfrosted. That this could be a little bonkers, because he also did Brigsby Bear. That was a very unique, odd film. So this one, if he sticks to the fun factor without getting too weird, I think it could be a really entertaining movie. But I don't know. This one's going to be a total gamble, I think, but you know, I really hope this one's just a lot of cheesy fun entertainment.
I agree. I really hope for that. But let's dive into a little bit more of the serious scary movies. Now Josh, I know you didn't see Smile 1. Are you going to see Smile 2?
I don't watch scary movies.
Okay. Let's hear a little bit about why Josh might not like that.
I keep seeing this face everywhere.
You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you.
Stop smiling at me!
I loved Smile 1 because it was bizarre as hell. Someone once said if you have like anxiety, it's a conspiracy theory about yourself. You know, people don't like me. Why are they looking at me? What's going on? Like, everything I do is wrong. And it's like, yeah. And just the idea of people just kind of gazing in your direction, maybe smiling themselves, actually is a sign of this beast kind of chasing you. They took a little bit of Ring with the whole, like, oh, if it happens, you have like 7 days or something like that before it gets you kind of thing. A little bit of it follows in there too with the whole, like, it can pass from person to person as it stalks you. But Smile 2, it's from Parker Finn, who wrote and directed the first one, came out 2 years ago, was an unexpected big mid-pandemic hit. It's coming back with Naomi Scott, who is a pop star. And I got to say that the part of the trailer with like her dance crew chasing her while smiling is, I am very excited for this.
So now with Smile 1, I wasn't like the biggest fan of Smile, and I didn't hate it because you're going to learn another pet peeve with me is because judging a lot of film festivals when it comes to short films, and it makes my way of thinking a little bit more analytical, especially when they go to a full-length feature. So it takes a premise that usually is executed within between 5 to 10 minutes, and it tries to stretch it. Now, this one does it better than most. I will give it credit with that. But I don't think it went far enough, and I hate it when they take this creepy premise and they neuter it to a PG-13 when it could have gone a lot further. So to me, with Smile 2, I'll be curious because the lineup doesn't really have me excited with Parker Finn being a new director. But out of my pure curiosity, it does have Kyle Gallner in it, which was in Strange Darling. That's going to be on my episode this week. And his performance is absolutely intriguing. And I'm really curious to see how he does with a PG-13 horror movie coming off of Strange Darling. So there is a piece of curiosity with me with the cast here. But going from short film to elongated 92-minute runtime of Smile 1, then going into a sequel, I really hope this new director really takes it further than the first one and doesn't keep it as tame, because I think this is a premise that could go a lot further.
There was, as you mentioned, a short that started the Smile thing. And now that you mentioned that, it does remind me of Lights Out with David F. Sandberg. That 5-minute short is terrifying. Absolutely horrifying. And I hate it because every once in a while it just pops into my head as I'm laying in bed at night next to my beloved. And then I reach over. I'm like, okay, something's on the bed. We have cats. I feel one, I think, to my left.
It's me.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it, Justin. Why did I give you a key? But that one just kind of, it's like, how many presences are in the room right now, and are all of them my cats and my wife? But I liked Lights Out. I did not particularly like the message if you interpreted it the very wrong way. But they were trying to, every year or two, they say, oh, yeah, we have a sequel coming. And it's been 8 years. I don't know how you push that. And obviously with Smile 2, it looks like bigger is better, apparently.
Yeah, well, a lot of these horror shorts, and we're seeing more and more of it, and I don't really have a problem with it, but what I do have a problem with is they're treating it as something suitable for all audiences, because the shorts, they're not gory, they go for atmosphere. Lights Out, especially in particular, I had a major issue with that because the short had a great utilization of obviously lighting, atmosphere, things like that to give that spooky tone. But what the filmmakers are trying to do is keep that suitable for all audiences tone and go to the big screen. So anybody that saw the short would feel safe going to this movie. But this is where it should go in comparison to sequels, is bigger and badder. And it needs to push the envelope and give audiences something that's not so tame, something that we haven't already seen. Because we take even Lights Out and Smile, that just, you can almost feel it trying to stretch itself into cliche territory, and it loses credibility based on predictability of what's going to happen. So to me, I think it really needs to have that little oomph. And I really do wish this one would be just a really hard R to really shock audiences. Not necessarily in the gore, but in the tension. That's what these movies are missing, is the tension for the entire runtime.
Yeah, it's very hard to do a horror sequel because once you've laid the foundation, you have to go in a slightly different direction. Alien to Aliens, you up it, but you change the tone just a little bit. Terminator to Terminator 2, not to I mean, James Cameron's perfect at that. He's realized what to do. But then when you get to Terminator 3, Genesis, how many times can you say, well, Arnold's a good guy again, he's a bad guy again, but what? And then how many different environments can you put the alien, which is the problem or the blessing of Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. They understand at a certain point, we don't give a crap about the people running around. We just want to see them mercilessly killed in fun ways because it's cathartic. So that's what I enjoyed about the ending of Smile 1, which was it was a very downer ending. You had at the last few moments everything ripped away from you. I don't know if I want to see a Smile 2 where Naomi Scott's character gets away. But then if you end with that dourness of the first one, with a villain who's very esoteric, of just a smiling demon beast, whatever it was, I forget, whatever the presence is, do you push that for a third one? That's something I'm very curious about, because we have coming next year, It Follows 2. And
so, I mean, with Smile 2, it does have the potential, and this is what I'm crossing my fingers on, is that it really learned from the mistakes of the first one. And I get it. People enjoyed the first one to an extent. But I think with the benefit of having a new director and going into all the missteps that the first one may have had compared to the short, this one, he's either going to play it safe and go with what the studios are going to say, or he's going to actually have some balls and actually say, I'm going to take this further because this is the movie I wanted when watching the first Smile. This is what I would have done. And that's going to be the make or break of Smile 2. And what I'm really hoping that they don't do is really give us an over monster explanation or overuse of the special effects when it comes to the Smile, because to me, the Smile wasn't that creepy in the first place. It was the storytelling elements, especially you spoke to it brilliantly, is the ending, not giving us an ending that the audience necessarily wanted, but kind of the downer ending, not to put a smile on our face, so to speak.
all right, Justin, this next one is one I'm going to drag Josh to. I don't care. He went and saw Alien Romulus. We jump scared together a few times. He's going to go see Nosferatu. Josh, you're going to go see it.
Alex, I do not watch scary movies.
Well, then watch this trailer.
We are here encountering the vampire.
I mean, that's really all that matters in that trailer. The trailer is like a minute 45, and it doesn't, it's just opera and brooding. And Robert Eggers has so annoyed me and made me happy and annoyed me. Like the Witch, I liked it and I hated it. It gave us Anna Taylor-Joy, and yet I hated the movie, but I liked it. But I really liked it. The Lighthouse, I still am not sure what the hell that was. The Northman, I was just watching it going like, am I watching Willem Dafoe tell people to fart? Like, you know, I'm not sure what I'm watching here. And yet I kind of dug it, and I didn't. And then there's Nosferatu. We have Willem Dafoe again. We have Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu, Count Orlok. We have Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, Emma Corrin, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and yet the Shadow of the Vampire and Dracula, the 90s beautiful, perfect Winona Ryder Dracula. And I don't know if this movie is going to just be balls to the wall crazy and awesome, especially when the original Nosferatu, a print came out. I believe they did they haven't done a 4K restoration, but it was a Blu-ray, came out with restored scenes that they found like some dusty binned warehouse. So it's the most complete version we have of that film, and it's still just gorgeous and terrifying. Every cut of that film that is released, when they find 3 more seconds on some spool somewhere, and they like cobble it together and release it just to try to rebuild what was lost with the Bram Stoker lawsuit that buried that film for years, decades. Do you have hope for this film, Justin?
This one, again, is going to be a wild card, because here's kind of the deal. I'll go over 2 different views of it. Eggers, you either love him or hate him in his movies. His movies are message heavy, but there's no real direction in his messaging. There's no real clarity. It's so vague in messaging that he relies it to be told in visuals. And that's what this director is. He spends a lot of his time in visuals, and with The Witch, we saw it with the murky tone that never really changes, and at one point it gets mentally exhausting because it's the same tone that we see throughout. and then you just kind of get a little bored with it. I love The Witch up until the ending to an extent because I don't feel like he got there with the messaging. But when it comes to The Lighthouse, I love The Lighthouse. The Northman, my God. He lost me with The Northman when people are in the dungeon barking. And I think I tore this movie apart in my review because this is not this isn't the Eggers I was hoping for. And again, this is one of those movies, and I'll say it on your show, is maybe I was a little too hard on it after a rewatch, but by the end of it, I'm just like, I still hate this movie. So it is a love or hate with Eggers, but with this is where I think it's going to misstep. It's going to use his visuals. He's going to forte a lot of the visual aspects of it. And that's not what this movie needs now. We have Generation and Shadow of the Vampire. It should have honestly stopped there because I think that is going to be the best interpretation that we get from having this story kind of told in a unique way. There's not going to be anything unique here. They're going to push to have it so close to the original tradition that it's not really going to touch moviegoers today. This is where it should have had its own, Eggers should have had its own vision. On paper, I'm sure that looked fantastic with Eggers directing with this visual spectacle and the master of lighting. But this, I don't think, is really going to resonate. I think it's going to be well written, people will say, but it's going to be so simplistic that it's not going to feel necessary. I don't think it's going to be relevant. People are going to go because here's my cynical answer to this movie. People are going to go to this movie because they don't want to watch a silent film. And this is going to be the closest thing that they're going to get to watching the classics, I want to say, or retelling. But there is nothing that can replace the original. It was terrifying to people then. And if we look now, especially with the restored version, there's a lot to appreciate, even though with media and social media and movies now, it may not terrify people, but it is still an amazing film study to watch on how the filmmaking process goes back with silent films. It's still held as an example today of how to handle lighting and how to do body language. And it's going to be a copycat of trying to hold that position in film. So to me, this one is going to be kind of frustrating for me, and I can already tell. But I'll go in with an open mind.
Nosferatu, because of its time and because of the controversy, it was Dracula in all but name. And the reason why they changed the name, so it was the German cinema, and it got buried in lawsuits and destroyed prints. And then people, for some reason, people were idiots and didn't realize that before, I believe, it was like 1930, a lot of people filmed movies in 16 frames per second. So when they start putting them on reels that were meant to play 24 frames per second, everything looked funny and jerky and weird. Why is everyone talking so fast and moving so fast and blah, blah, blah? It's because you're looking at the wrong frame rate. When the closest restoration we have to it right now is somewhere around 100 minutes, maybe a little shorter. But a lot of the prints you get on like DVDs, because it's in public domain and it's been circulated a lot, or is like 60 minutes because it's just being played at 24 frames a second. You lose a lot of it, and you need to find a good Blu-ray copy of this film. It is terrifying. It is wonderful. And you see what is done, as you said, with lighting, which is why I have a problem with how I've seen some of the promotion of Nosferatu about how we're going to use practical effects. A lot of the effects are done in camera. I'm like, good. I like to hear that. But I've already seen that with Bram Stoker's Dracula. Francis Ford Coppola directing Gary Oldman, they did almost all of that in camera. So much so that when he was having trouble with the special effects designer meeting his vision, he fired him and told his son, figure this out. And they did, and they went back to a lot of those early Hollywood, German production, European production designs. And there's only one shot in the entire movie that has a digital element. It's at the end, the carriage is going through like this little passage, and you see this blue flame rising from the ground, like this circular motion. That's the only effect. Everything else is done in camera with force perspective, and I love the movie. I just do. I can rewatch Gary Oldman as Count Dracula any day of the week. He just embodies that performance, and it is such an operatic love story. So I hope I really do hope this film is good. I don't need a shot-for-shot remake because, we can look at Psycho and see how that turns out. I'm hoping maybe there's a little bit of humbling after The Northman didn't spark fire. Maybe this is truly a great passion project.
Well, and here's going to be the make or break is going to be, they've already advertised that the style they're going to try and go after. They're going to try and do, I shouldn't even call it nostalgic because I think everybody's dead that when that movie came out. But they're going to try and hold respect to the original shooting style and fine and dandy. But one thing that's really going to hold this movie apart is going to be the dialogue, because whether, kind of like you said, is this going to be a shot for shot? You can tell in the trailer is not to an extent, but they're going to try and do the same theme. The dialogue is going to tell the tale because they're trying to put words to a silent film. They're going to try and make this something a little bit different. So I don't know. So there's going to be a lot to the performances. Skarsgård, I do have high hopes for because he has impressed the hell out of me in the last couple of years in a lot of his stuff. But the performances, the body language in this movie, and what they're really going to bring to the table to be something unique. Because I said it in my Crow review, if you're going to make a remake or if you're going to make something, then go all in with it and don't shy away from insulting the original material. You have to make it your own. You're going to insult the original material by trying to copycat and then tame it and then do nothing with it. So, and that's my fear with this movie, and that's my passion of the love of the original coming out. I just really hope that this doesn't become a bomb, because when remake to a classic like this does become a bomb, it puts the original in danger of people not watching the original.
Yeah, I agree with that. Justin, there is another movie coming out which people are excited for. I'm going to admit that I haven't seen the first two, and I'm going to tell you why after I ask Josh. Josh, are you going to see Terrifier 3?
I don't watch scary movies.
Is it because you don't like Santa?
Who's this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Justin, I haven't watched Terrifier 1 or 2 because 1, I was not aware of Terrifier 1, and 2, because 2 was doing so well and the fervent fan base surrounding it, I have this thing where people tell me I must watch something too many times. I don't, so I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. I have no plans to. I don't care. You have told me I must watch this, that this is going to change my life so many times. I don't care. Now, Terrifier 3, 1 and 2, seems like it would be up my alley. Gory, quirky, weird, a lot of bizarre lore, crowd-funded, like through Kickstarter, this word of mouth where people were just showing up over and over to keep this thing going. Why should I go against my better judgment and actually see this and see the first two to go see this one?
It's funny. Just not too long ago, I have a buddy that worked on the Terrifier 2, and open and honest, it's not biased because I did really enjoy the second one. But I was promised with this one that this one will outdo the previous two. They don't give a rat's ass about trying to please anybody, and that's what I respect about this. This is one of those that I spoke to kind of earlier, is if you're going to do a sequel, go all in. Don't try and copy something. Don't try and copy a premise. And I'm being told that this one does guarantee that. And I was actually impressed with the second one because it did something different as a sequel. It took something that's low budget, took this low budget concept, and outdid itself with knowing what it is and knowing exactly where its roots were. It knew that this was going to get a big screen treatment, and it didn't care. It still gave audiences and fans exactly what they wanted. And this is one of those movies, too, that I actually did put my notepad down and just went along for the ride because the audience was so engaged, so on the edge. And I'm a big fan of looking around the auditorium at reactions with movies like this. There was not one head in this packed theater that I didn't see leaning over or seeing what's about to come. And the characters were engaging. It was cheesy performances, but they were fun cheesy. They were the good cheesy. So I think it's a brilliant move to make a kind of a Terrifier in a kind of a Christmas time atmosphere that we saw there. I think this is going to be the new tradition of having a horror movie during Christmas time, since we see Christmas time at Halloween now at Walmart. So it's kind of a stab in the back to retailers. So this one I think I'm excited for, only because this one is going to have an engaging story, and everybody's going to be looking for that one gross out scene. Terrifier 2 added elements that really did move the story along and kind of had fun with itself. This one, you can tell, is really going to have some fun with itself. So I think it's going to appease fans, but people that aren't a fan of gore and horror and kind of the cheesy movies, they're going to naturally hate it. If you didn't like the first two, you're not going to like this one, so don't go see it.
I don't really know anything about it other than apparently it's about Art the Clown, which, by the way, to actually get a distinctive, scary clown design after the last 60 years of cinema giving us clown after clown after clown. And yes, this one is not, is inherently, you look at it going like, that clown killed somebody. But it's the facial expressions of the actor really sell it. David Howard Thornton. And it does have that kind of texture of that old cloth mask design a little bit. But it's it has a little bit of latexing. And I admit, I was watching the trailer just giggling because he's making snow angels and blood. Or why is Art the Clown sitting in Santa's seat at a mall? Who did not check this guy out? And they're letting children. What is in the bag? I have to know what's in Santa's sack. And I'm assuming it's not the kind of jokey thing where it's Futurama or something like that, where Nightmare Before Christmas, where you give kids here's a skeleton or here's a minigun. I'm assuming it's probably body parts or chainsaws that are on or something. I don't know. But is it actually as good as people tell me? Should I actually give this a shot is my question. Is it worth at least watching the first one to see how I get my feel out?
It's not good at all, and that's what makes it good.
I'm looking at Damien Leone's filmography here, and I see Frankenstein versus the Mummy, and that is a movie my wife and I would watch because we love horrible sci-fi films. And to go from that to Terrifier, I'm like, this is probably a really bad movie. I'm all for it.
Well, the thing is, even when you go to the Terrifier one, they are bad movies, but they do it so well that there's something about a good bad movie that just keeps you wanting to follow that. And you look at David Howard Thornton, and this is what I think really zeroes in on the fun factor, is you have a clown design that doesn't go all in on, okay, that's a killer. You have this clown design that's almost questionable if you saw him out in public to an extent. He's not covered in dramatic blood. He has that safe white and black lipstick, and you kind of see what he's going to do. Thornton really uses his body language to really amplify the fun factor before he's going to kill the shit out of you. And it surrounds the environment and his actions, not the character. But most people, again, you haven't seen the previous two, but most people are going to see this movie for one scene that the second one sets up to really go over the top and just pure silliness. A pure silly kill, and you know it's fake, and you can see it's fake, but it had me covering my eyes in just grotesque disgustingness on screen. So I'm curious on how far they're going to take that one moment in a Christmas movie. And if I had to predict, I'm predicting 2 heads in that. Or no, I'll go 3 heads in Santa's bag this year.
All right, we'll go from that to a movie I want to see just because Hugh Grant has entered he's always been a persnickety kind of fellow. I mean, he's been around for Hollywood for 30, 35 years now. He was the romantic leading man for quite a long time. And then he even talked about I'm aging out of that and kind of have to do some other stuff. Hugh Grant, when he was cast as an Oompa Loompa in Wonka, I was like, oh my God, really? This is where we've decided to go. And then I remembered, oh yeah, he's in Paddington. Oh yeah, he was pretty decent in Dungeons and Dragons. And then as Lofty in Wonka, I was like, God bless Hugh Grant. And now we have him back in perhaps his greatest role ever, being mean to Mormons. Josh, are you going to see Hugh Grant in Heretic?
I don't watch scary movies.
That's not the question I asked.
We just need to go home.
I won't keep you if you wish to leave. But I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
Mormon population, nicest people in the world. Absolutely love them. But I am very aware of the whole shtick around people not liking them. And so the idea of Hugh Grant, like being like, I'm not even sure he's playing a role in this one. I mean, I know his character name is Mr. Reed, but I'm just, based off his personality the last 15, 20 years, I'm just not sure that this isn't all filmed from his ring cam.
Total reality TV, 100%.
And these two poor missionaries show up. He invites them in, gets, he's baking a pie, and they're chit-chatting. He seems to be like, oh, yes, I understand. And then he goes off to go get the pie, and they see there's a candle. It says blueberry pie on it, the aroma. And it turns out they're trapped in this house. And at first I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be one of those kind of cheesy, shticky kind of like movies. All right. Oh, it's A24. There's going to be a twist, okay? And the visuals of the trailer, the last like 20 seconds or so, where it shows the missionaries going through the house, and it pulls up to like this dollhouse kind of look. That is where I'm like, okay, this not only has sold me that Hugh Grant playing a villain, I'm in, but what are they going to do with this visual?
I can tell you what they're going to do with it, and honestly, I want to hear you use, I don't know what word you use to describe Hugh Grant, snickerty or particularity or whatever it was.
Persnickety.
Persnickety. That is the word for Hugh Grant for the rest of this discussion. So this one, you can kind of see this one coming, especially with A24 really going into a more simplistic, symbolic horror vision, I guess I want to say. This is going to be the cat and mouse game that's going to turn into the question of religion, of what you will do to survive, and it's going to turn into a revenge story at the end, where you see Mormons go wild. You can predict the last 20 minutes of this movie, because you know Hugh Grant's not coming out of this alive, and the Mormons are going to kill him. So, if there's anything different, that would be the twist.
They're not Amish, Justin. They don't have Rumspringa where they can go wild for a year.
I guarantee you, since they showed that blueberry damn candle at the beginning, that's going in Hugh Grant's face right at the end. But when it comes, this is actually a smart move for Hugh Grant, because, again, we see him take these roles, and it's from, an Oompa Loompa to the romantic to... His career is slowly starting to come to a peak where he is really going back to testing his range. And this one, I guess I don't want to say testing his range, because, like you said, this is Hugh Grant. This is just him wanting to vent some extra energy for a couple months. But I think this one is going to be based on Wonka just coming out, this is a smart one to come out right after, because perceiving Hugh Grant, this is going to give kind of that unexpected, uncomfortable feeling of what we see him on screen. So I think it's a smart move for Hugh Grant, but I definitely think this one's going to be a predictable move for A24. So I'll be curious to see on this one. But again, the overall message, this one is probably going to be extremely entertaining.
I hope so. The directors and writers are Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who were the original writers on A Quiet Place. But then they also did 65, the Sam Raimi produced Adam Driver movie. I love bad movies, and even that couldn't drag me in. But Justin, we have one more I want to, and this is one that actually Josh suggested that we might go watch.
I don't watch scary movies.
Okay, I'm not sure what that has to do with anything, Josh, but...
What is that? It's just a...
It's a fucking massive room.
A killer kangaroo. The movie is called Rippy. The trailer is freaking hysterical. I don't know how the hell they got Michael Biehn in this thing, but bless him for showing up. I've never heard of Ryan Coonan, who is the director of this thing. Looks like they've only had a few short projects. I think this is probably one of those films that is the Australian horror market. Every year or two, one of them just kind of pops off and enters the American public consciousness. And a killer kangaroo just screwing people up. I know what some of them saw Cocaine Bear and were like, we can do better.
Cracked Out Kangaroo, absolutely. This is completely the wrong title. So, I mean, I love Australian horror movies. To me, it's either going to be really, really good or at bare minimum, really entertaining. I should be careful what I say because now I'm thinking of really bad Australian horror movies. But this one does scream the Cocaine Bear fun factor, and you can tell in the dialogue that we see in the trailer. I remember when I kind of sent this to you, I kind of got a little giddy with it, with some key words. It's a zombie kangaroo. It's okay. Just the design of the kangaroo with the up-close shots, it uses that B-movie up-close shots to hide some bad special effects.
Oh, yeah.
But this one, when we get kind of a shot with the lighting of it, I think it looks somewhat okay. Mm-hmm. So to me, this was intimidating, especially when you see the kangaroo up on both legs in the moonlight and you see his rippling abs like Glenn Powell is doing a stunt double. So to me, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be Cocaine Bear silly fun.
That's all I can hope for, because you're right. The lighting, the kind of like the perspective, you can tell that they don't have a massive budget. So they got maybe 3 or 4 good angles that they can use that puppet on. It reminds me a little bit of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie where Splinter really only looked good like head on. And anytime you saw like Splinter in full body profile, you could tell that the effects artists were just off screen going, please don't fall over, please don't fall over, please.
Total Kermit the Frog body.
Oh yeah. So it's not gonna. Is it gonna be great? No. Are they gonna end up killing it? Probably. But I want to see a kangaroo just rip people apart. I want somebody's head to get whacked off from the kangaroo turning around, just whipping its tail, and head goes flying 50 yards and into a car that's coming towards them, and it smashes the windshield, and someone's like, "Oh my God, it was Josh!" You know.
Well, it's like the only thing I didn't buy in the trailer, and I hope they really kind of attack it, is that there's a scene or a part in the trailer where they go, "That is a gigantic bite mark. What was it, a gator? Have you seen the size of a kangaroo's mouth? It's like a pucker." It's a kiss to death.
It's just, it's going to be horrible. And I'm excited for it. Justin, I don't have a lot of hope for the movies that are coming out the rest of this year, but I do have a lot of hope for Rippy.
I am looking forward to... It's pretty sad that the movies we discussed right now, the ones I'm looking forward to, is Terrifier 3 and a killer kangaroo. So that's, I don't know if that's going to hurt me, but you know what? Those at least know how to have a good time at the movies.
Yeah. I mean, at least next year we have Saw 11 to look forward to. Probably another Conjuring movie, Annabelle universe. One of them. I mean, it's about time. It's been like 18 months.
I don't know. 2024, honestly, with how many horror movies, I shouldn't say much because I think 2 of them might end up on my top 10 list this year because of how impressed I was. But given, you have Blood and Honey, Tarot, Mousetrap, Longlegs, Sting, Meth Gator. I mean, sneak peek, Meth Gator might end up on my top 10. But this is a year of horror. I am so fucking with you. Hell no.
Hey, Slaughterhouse was close last year.
That's true. That reminds me of a killer kangaroo and a killer clown for sure. But, it's odd that they're really tapping into, in 2024, a lot of these horror movies that is just an insane amount that we normally don't get. And not a lot of them are coming out around Halloween time. They were completely spread out during the year. So it makes me curious on studios really just pumping out a lot of this garbage to really, because horror notoriously have small budgets. And this is kind of a cheap shot to pump out a lot of garbage this year to just put people into seats. So I'm really hoping the back half of this year really puts out a good time.
Yeah. The thing that I do like about horror is that good horror can be a reflection of the times that people are in. And bad horror can just be a fucking good time. I unabashedly love the first like 2.5 Sharknado movies. There's a movie it's so hard to find. I need to find a DVD, like some rip that somebody has made for it, called Curse of the Yeti. That is a horrible Sci-Fi Channel film about these kids that crash into the Himalayas and then have to deal with a Yeti. And there's a Winnie the Pooh moment where the bigger guy does not get through the hole and gets ripped off. They use part of his arm as a splint at one point. His frozen arm. Yeah, I love crappy horror movies like that, but I also love movies that can say a little something. That's why, I mean, we don't agree on Smile, but that's okay, because Smile spoke to me in a weird way that worked.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about bad horror movies and then talking about the Sasquatch movie with the hole that didn't go through, I mean, you take movies like Killer Condom, and that's what really sparked my memory of that movie, because you do have a lot of these bad movies that just, if they know exactly what they're trying to do, it could be a fun ride. And, you know, sometimes we get wrapped up in just stupid movies being stupid movies, but it's all about the intent. So the intent is important in horror movies. And you know what, if a horror movie can get me to smile, especially after a scare without cranking up the volume at a cheap shot, you know what, it's a win for a horror movie.
Definitely. Well, Justin, let's get out of here and enjoy this lovely, soon-to-be fall weather. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah. So you can check out the Movie Wire anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can check me out on the socials at Movie Wire Show. And don't forget to take a look at Back to the Balcony, available on YouTube right now.
And you can find Talking Smack at T-Smack-Pod. On most of our, Talking Smack on all of the socials. You can join our Discord at tsmackpod@gmail.com. You know, it's really sad that Josh couldn't be here, but that's okay. I have my companion here, who I know, when the time is right, will let everybody know what terrible franchise to watch. That is our tagline. Say it.
Watch Star Trek.
There we go. Is that a Dick Tracy board game?
That is by Dick Tracy antique original car from the original cartoon, along with every action figure from the movie, every Dick Tracy doll, and the classic comic books are up there as well.
Really? I didn't realize you were a huge Dick Tracy fan.
I love the old cereal. I have all those downloaded.
This is way longer than I remember it being. I should have checked the time soon.
This music reminds me of Ernest Scared Stupid.
Oh, I love that movie.
Here on the farm, not many people, of course. But if people do turn up and you want them to keep their distance, I've got this. A jobby on a stick. Away you go. Keep away from me. I've got a jobby on a stick.